Okay, what we're looking at here is a bunch of math terms, and we're going to define that in just a second, but I want you to look at all these and figure out what do they all have in common. So the first one is 4, the next one is negative 1/2, then we have 5x, then we have a negative y, go down to 2ab, and you might not know what all this means, but that's okay. I just want to see if you can figure out the difference between what single terms are and what multiple terms are. 1.7r, 0, xyz, the square root of 5c, pi x, er, and 1007. So again, all these are single terms in each of these squares, okay? Now, everything inside of each of these squares are several terms. So first we have 4 plus 3, then we have x minus 1/2, x plus y plus z, 5 minus a plus 1, 3 minus square root of 7, xy plus 2, 1.3 plus x over y, 2 plus m minus 4 plus xy, the square root of 5 minus x, pi plus 1, 10 minus e, and 107 minus 1. So again, these are single terms, and these are several terms. What do you notice is different about these? Well, if you haven't already guessed, in the first slide, there is no addition or subtraction. Now I realize these are negative, but that's not exactly the same thing as subtraction. However, with several terms, each of these has either an addition or a subtraction sign. And that's getting to the bottom of what makes a math term, or what separates a math term. Math terms are separated by addition and subtraction. So if there is no addition and subtraction, that means it's a single math term, just like in the first slide. Pretty simple, right? Let's go ahead and look at some examples. Is negative 5x a single term? Well, let me go ahead and draw an arrow here. Is there an addition or subtraction? No. Negative 5x is actually, yes, it's negative, but it doesn't say 10 minus 5x, right? There's no minus or add. So therefore, the answer is yes, it is a single term. I guess it can be confusing when you see the negative, but remember, negative isn't exactly the same as subtraction, although it's very similar. Okay, next example. Is 10 minus 5x a single term? Answer is no. Okay, now why is it no? Because we have a subtraction sign. Here's the subtraction sign, and so sometimes what I do is I will just kind of draw a line between the two terms. So 10 would be one term and 5x would be the other. And the 5x is being subtracted, so the 5x is the term. Now that can get confusing in the sense that if you had 10 plus negative 5x, in that case the negative 5x would be the term and the 10 would be the other term. But again, it's not too confusing because they're separated by the plus sign. And so that's a slight difference. It's more of a technical difference than it is something that really is, it's not that important, but anyways, it's a slight difference. So next question I want to ask you guys is how many terms are in here? 8 minus 5x plus y. Well, even if you don't know what these mean, you can still separate them just like we did before. We have a minus sign here, so that's going to separate two terms. And let's use a different color. We have a plus sign here, so that's going to separate those next two terms. So therefore we have 1, 2, 3 terms. Okay, so it's not too bad. It's pretty simple. 3 terms. How many terms are in? And let's go ahead and underline this together so we can read it. 5 minus the square root of xy. Well, again, you might not know what the square root of xy means, but you should be able to ascertain there's a minus sign here, so it's going to separate those two terms. So again, it's just the plus and minus are what separates the math terms. Therefore, this has 2 terms. And all I want you to do for this is just simply identify which one are single terms. Now the first one has a minus sign, right? So there's actually 2 terms here, so that is not one. Okay, the next one is just 5x. There is no plus or minus, so we can go ahead and check that one off. That is, yes, a single term. Next one, also, no plus or minus. It's x times y times z. Okay, next one's a little tricky. It's negative square root of ab. I can go ahead and kind of go over that with you. But that's a negative sign, right? It's not addition or subtraction. It's just a negative term. Nothing's being added or subtracted, so therefore it's also a single term. Now the next one we have xy plus pi, so that's actually two terms, so that is not a single term. It's separated by the plus sign. Same for this one, there's a minus sign, so we have two terms, 0 and a. Now the next one we're good because there is no addition or subtraction. It's 4y to the fourth z, so that is a single term. And finally we have 5 plus 2, so again we have the separation of two terms by the plus sign. So in all we have four single terms on this slide: 5x, xy, z, negative square root of ab, and 4y to the fourth z. So that's it. When we say term in math, we're referring to something that is separated by a plus or minus sign, or if it's by itself, then it is a single term. And if we were to put a plus 7 right here, right, then 7 would be the other term because it would be separated by the plus sign. So it's real simple. They're separated by plus or minuses, and that's how you determine one term to the next.